Okay, topics. Daniel will do a demo of calendars. Bertrand said he wanted to talk about REST API and hosting API solution. I have some websites to show. What else? Status, as usual. What else? Bertrand's rants about Microsoft. I write Bertrand hates Microsoft. Okay. But Bertrand is French, so he hates everything, and I understand. Yeah, Sultan. What else? Anyone else wants to do a demo? Zoltan?
Sorry, still no demos.
3 weeks in a row. Man. It's like a real job now. Nick, the layout is done? I assume you at least have watched the meeting when we talk about the layout?
I have some questions, but I can ask them later, so
yep,
it's fine.
Sure.
I have some translation stuff as well, but
this I don't care.
Maybe I'll show that next week.
Okay. Oh yeah, we talk about something here. I forgot about that.
And I have one question also around. Supposedly you did some work on exposing content APIs to a PHP application.
Yeah, it's in the comments, and well, we have to talk about that today. Actually, I wrote it down for the agenda. So let's make a status first about the past week. Let me reload my solution first. Okay, and I'm sharing my screen. Where is the screen share? Screen share. Benedek, I can see your eyes. I can. Waiting for you. We are always waiting for Benedek.
I'm sorry.
He's always the latest.
Oh, come on. I can see your screen now.
The last. Thank you. So, go back in time. Lots of work, actually. Stop chatting. Then I'm like, what are they talking about? Then 7 days ago there was a merge. So I assume this was there. Yes, but this was in sessions. So remember, I had made some change on href to be tenant aware, and you will see that I fixed the changes actually. Fixing unit test compilation warnings, moving redirects. What?
By the way, is it good that we are using sessions in themes for the preview? I saw this was a design decision earlier that we shouldn't use sessions.
I don't know. Well, if you have a better solution, propose. It has always been there, and I have never touched this code.
What's wrong with session in this case?
Sorry?
What is wrong with using session in this case?
It's not wrong, it's just adding to the complexity if the site is running on multiple nodes. Because there are no other places inside OSHA that use sessions.
There are everywhere, but you don't know. Like the comments.
Yeah, for the notifications.
Temp data, yeah.
And it's a good reason to use session actually in this case.
Just use one server.
It's something not very important anyway.
And one website per server.
And one user per website.
Yes, maybe. So moving redirect suppression logic, what was it? Oh yeah, this one, crazy. I think it took me some time, actually. Let me explain you. So this one was about updating the DLLs to make the warnings disappear. This one, so the issue was, did I talk about it last week? Yes, I talked about it, I think, last week, about the when you authenticate on one tenant, it will show the login screen for the main tenant, for the default tenant, and redirect, so it was wrong. So I fixed it, and I think I showed it last week, and I fixed the fix because the fix was wrong. Let me check authentication redirect filtered. So this is the fix of the fix, actually. Yeah, when I showed you the code, I said, no, it is wrong, and I fixed it. Okay. So now just this class contains the logic for that. So it's actually suppressing the redirect for the 401, which is sent by the authentication request. And it's also redirecting you by itself on the correct page. So that's the trick. This is from Stanley, which is about checking the permissions when we, I think, display the media or edit the media, I can't remember. Filter creatable types based on permissions for, pull request also. I took some pull requests this week. This one is just showing only the types that you can create in the new section of the dashboard. All of them are on 17x. Modified admin JavaScript for check. This one is just not checking the disable checkboxes when we say check all. Again, PR. This one on 1.x is okay. So this one is a new feature which will add the tags to the RSS feed. If you have tags on an item in an RSS feed. Small feature, but useful. RSS. If there is, fixing tenant prefix URL. So this is the fix of the feature I wrote last week. I was, the tenant redirection was wrong, so I have to add some custom folders here, not to make them tenant based. This is not super clean code, but this is the only way to make it work. I also changed how so in case you haven't seen that, Zoltan added a way to select specific modules for each tenant, like we had for the themes, but like it was for the themes, it was not really well organized, and because we have lots of features and modules, it was really ugly. So I just used ULLIs to render them, just a straight list, but that works. Then local navigation with tenants, so changing navigation manager when it comes to tenant. So from a navigation item, from a menu item, if you use the custom URL menu item, and if you type /, it will be based on the tenant, okay, which is what we expect. And this way also we should change the default recipe to make the homepage menu item a // instead of the content item itself. Okay, that's a task to do. I have added an owner switch to the menu item create command. Okay. Because otherwise the menu item will be created but no owner, so you can't change it, you have to type an owner, so now you can do that if you want by the command. More restrictions on tag names. So right now if you create a tag name, you can use spaces, which is fine. So the tag name is used in the route, okay, when you display the tag, the list of content item for a specific tag. So there was already a list of allowed features for the tags, this one, I've added also the slash, because even though the slash is allowed in a URL, for a tag you could type space slash space, which will be filtered by IIS itself. There is no way to make it work. So I'm preventing people from using slashes in their tags. And the route is just better. Then Bertrand added some new methods or overrides to overloads to let you define. Is this the one with the kind of yes, the type of join analysis you want to create on HQL? So if you want to do a left join query now, a left join, inner join, you can.
You can add an additional condition on the join.
And also, yes, the condition on the join. If it's not just for the foreign key. For instance, for fields, we might say, oh, give me all the fields linked to this item with the name foo. So we can do it now also. Yep. And this way we should, as I say to Bertrand, we should also maybe change the code from the filters in the projection module to use this with predicate instead of another where clause. Then another one from Bertrand, which is a small one, just using the indexer instead of the add. In case it already has been added, it will overwrite it. Okay, so just small fix. Also now on 1.x, Sipke fixed the dependency from the Azure module, from a feature in the Azure module to the Azure feature. I have added the content items class to the list by archive view. It's for theming, because if you define the ULLI classes or CSS classes, CSS definitions for content items for almost all the lists we have, like tags, blog post, search, the archive didn't have this class, and this was not consistent, so I fixed it. I then did two fixes for this one. So instead of, because this one was not showing up in the form, I used the notification to display if the reCAPTCHA has an issue. But by changing that, I broke it, so I fix it later, like the last one. So we need both add model error and error, because error won't invalidate the current editor, but add model error will invalidate the current editor. So I'm just using the two of them. This is ugly, but this is okay.
The validation error displayed.
Sorry?
Isn't there why isn't the validation error displayed? Isn't there a validation summary at least?
No. So it's on the front end. It's for the comments. And no, the validation is no, it's not displayed. Because
that done instead.
But the issue is that if we display it, it will be at this where the form is created, at the bottom of the page with the comments, and so you wouldn't see the error if you submit a comment, because you are returned to the top of the page. That's why I use notifier.
Okay.
Yeah, it works. Ideally, we will need a way to invalidate the current updater without having to add an error. Just say, no, it's not valid. You see, to change the model state, which is behind this updater, which is just an interface. So maybe we could just actually add a new method in the iUpdater interface, which says add model error, boom, without an error. Or mark or make model invalid. Something like this.
Maybe this wouldn't be probably better UX here if the user would be just returned to the form. I mean, with a how is it called, with a hash mark, with an inside link, in page link.
Maybe that could be doable. Exact.
Because there could be other errors as well, and
yeah, but they're also displayed. Yeah, okay. Okay, try it if you can, or I will if I can.
okay.
It's a better good idea. It also depends on it also depends on your theme. If you change that, then yeah, it will break because there won't be any hash link ensure. Yeah, so that's a risk. Then I fixed the media publication using XMLRPC. I assume it's been broken since. I have a try catch here. I think it was for debug code. I need to fix that when I was trying the code to see if it was the one breaking. So I assume since I think Sipko and Daniel changed the publication for media, we need to call create actually, and it was not called in the XMLRPC, so now it's fixed. Fixing and improving blog posts and archives count. So the archives count was broken in some way. This scenario was you publish a post, then you create a draft for this post and you delete this post. It will not decrement it because there's a draft. So I fixed it and I improved it in the same way I did for comments, which is when something has to be, when a count has to be processed, it flags the blog post as to be processed, and it's using the iProcessing engine. So after the end of the request to calculate the count only once. And same thing, yep, which is what I did for the comments and which was way more optimized. Fixing dependencies in orcharded blogs. Piotr this time, missing dependency. And he also pushed the change we talked about. We just talked about it using mails. So this is a new feature which will prevent you from disabling a feature if some other features are dependent on this one. Because if, let's say, you disable XMLRPC, it will by default disable blogs and whatever feature which is dependent on XMLRPC. And this will prevent some users from breaking their website. But it's just, I assume that what we talked about was just to show a warning. And if you go on, because you know what you're doing, it will do that. It's kind of a breaking change because it's modifying some interfaces, specifically the feature manager. This is sad, but if there is a choice, this will be it. I'm not sure if anyone is implementing iFeature Manager. If Zoltan is not re-implementing iFeature Manager, no one is.
No, I haven't implemented iFeature Manager, so
good.
Everybody's safe.
And then I fixed the reCAPTCHA, as I said, adding back the add model error. Any comment? Some of the bugs should be, is that the bug fix that should be included in 1.7x? Which bug fix?
The dependencies thing, it's not a bug.
It's a new feature and it's breaking. So it's a new feature and it's actually breaking the interface. So that's hard for 1.7x. But should be easily included in 1.7. Well, once you are in 1.7x, it's very easy to go to 1.8. But yeah, you should be able to take it to 1.7x too, I assume. Just adding new code somewhere, so there should not be any conflict with your existing code. Done for the status. Questions? Lots of new things last week. So pull request, I pulled some pull requests and commented on the ones that I needed more information on. Then status done. Let's look at the. No, roadmap is the same. The goal is really to ship 1.8 this month, so the 29th of February. And for that, let's look at Daniel's calendars, because it's on the list for 1.8 and you sent the pull request. Now I have to review it, but before, let's look at what it does. You think you can show?
Yep, sure. I would be delighted. Do you need to make me a presenter, or can I just...
Everyone's a presenter.
Everyone's
This was fixed like 2 years ago when we had the issue.
Wonderful. Doesn't seem to work for me, though. Oh, here we go. Showing?
Loading.
It's
Let me know when.
Yeah, I can see it now. Thanks.
Okay. Right, so non-Gregorian calendar support. I guess just a brief recap to frame the discussion for those who haven't looked at the date time localization story in Orchard for a while. So all dates in Orchard are stored in the UTC time zone with the Gregorian calendar, which is what most of the Western world uses, and in date time fields. And whenever a date needs to be rendered somehow, either on the front end for display or on the back end for editing, basically three things need to happen. One, it needs to be converted to whatever time zone that the site's configured for. And two, it needs to be converted to the appropriate calendar for the target audience. And three, it needs to be formatted. So converted from a date time to a string based on the culture that the site's configured for. And then, of course, in the case of the dashboard, when you've edited a date and you save it, the same things need to happen in reverse, basically. And as far as the calendar step of that process, there was actually some calendar conversion going on in Orchard before this pull request, because as it turns out, the .NET framework, when you format a date to a string, the formatting process actually does the calendar conversion for you automatically if the culture with which you're formatting has a different default calendar than the Gregorian one. This was kind of a surprise to me, but that's how it works. And also that happens automatically on the way back as you parse whatever you've edited. But that what the .NET framework does by default is not enough for all situations. For example, if you live in a country where you use a non-Gregorian calendar, you may want to, even though like you have the culture set to whatever language and culture of your country, you still may want to be able to communicate with like the rest of the world when it comes to dates. So you still might want to use the Gregorian calendar. So that's a case when using whatever default calendar is for that culture doesn't make sense. And also, there's a few special cases. We can take Iran, for example. That's actually what sparked this whole change set. Some guy on the forums, some Persian guy, was wondering, how do I get the Persian calendar to be used in the date conversion? And there's a bug deep down in Windows somewhere that essentially means that the Persian calendar, although supported by Windows and the .NET framework, it's not configured as the default calendar for the Iranian culture. And it's actually not even configured as one of the optional calendars for the Iranian culture. So that's what a lot of Iranian people get tripped up on that. So that's another example where you may want to configure your site to use a different calendar than whatever culture you're running on. And to that end, I have added this as a new site setting. So if we go into the dashboard, this is just plain vanilla Orchard site running this pull request. So if we go into the dashboard now, there's an additional drop box here between the culture and the time zone, which is the default site calendar. And this Dropbox contains all of the calendars that are supported by the .NET framework. There's also an appropriate extensibility point for this. So just as there's an iCulture Manager interface that you can implement in your module, there's also an iCalendar Manager interface now. So you can, if you have a custom calendar implementation or want other implementations to plug in here, you can just override implement that interface in a module and extend this list if you want to.
Oh, sorry. No, I wanted to say something wrong. So, sorry.
Okay. And by default, this is configured to use the culture calendar, which is pretty much the way it worked before. And I've made it clear as a UI hint here that the culture calendar option means that it will use the default calendar for the culture of the current request. And that's not necessarily the same thing as this culture that you have configured here, because there's also another extensibility point, which is the iCulture selector, I think it's called. So you can implement that if you want to change the culture dynamically, for example, based on the content or the locale of the user or what have you. And so that's in that case, if for the current request there's another culture in use than the one you have configured here, then the default culture for that, the default calendar for that culture would be used. So I just thought it was appropriate to make that clear here in the UI. If you choose another calendar here except the culture one, then this whole date-time localization process gets customized to perform the conversion using whatever calendar that you've selected. Let's see. So, and those three steps that I was talking about, that actually happens, like there's a lot of places where dates are managed. So there's the archive later module, there's the publish later module, and there's the the fields module with the date time field. There's the common part, which we see here with the created date and the last modified date and all of those things. And let's see what else. There's also some tokens that use datetime. And when I started looking at this, I noticed that the conversion logic was basically duplicated in all of those places, and it was a little different from place to place. Like in some parts, some part of this process was done correctly, but not another one, and it differed from place to place. And it was a lot of duplication, and there was no consistency. So the first thing that I did was to remove all of that duplication and move it into something called IDateServices. So there's now a dependency interface called IDateServices that has a bunch of methods for just basically taking dates and putting them through that whole localization process with respect to what's configured as the culture, calendar, and time zone of the site. So there's a bunch of overloads here for different scenarios where, like, you might have a nullable or a non-nullable date, and you may want to do the whole conversion all the way to a string or only do a certain part of the conversion process and so forth. And there's a default implementation of this, default date services, that just does this based on whatever's configured for the site. And so this date conversion pipeline, IDateServices, is now used everywhere where dates are localized. And that includes this place right here. And this is a case where before this pull request, this date, I believe, was not localized at all. So that was actually always displayed using the US English culture, if I remember correctly.
Wrong.
Oh? There was something wrong with this one anyway.
No, this is just that you didn't understand how it was working.
Oh, how was it working then?
So you needed a PO file to format how to display it, and it was also using a time zone info. So
one of the things wasn't happening anyway. Either it was the formatting, culture-specific formatting, or it was the time zone. Like, one of them wasn't happening for this date.
Okay.
But anyway, it works now. It all uses the same pipeline. So if I go into the settings here again, like change out the culture to, let's say, let's go with Swedish. That's a nice one. Slow. Now refreshing. It's Swedish. Right. So we can, if you look at this date, it's in the year of 2014. So now, independent of the culture that I just selected, I can, for example, select the Persian calendar for this site and save it. And if I refresh this page now, it's in the year of 1392, 2nd of November. So that's basically the demo, calendar support in effect. So another twist to this, though, is that displaying dates is the easy part, but editing them turns out to be the difficult part. So now, let's see, I go back to the culture calendar and the US English here. So just go to create a new page. And I've added just a datetime field to this just to be able to show all of the places where this stuff is going on. So before, in the back end, dates were edited using the jQuery UI date picker. And that one has no localization support. Well, it has some, but it has no support for other calendars except the Gregorian one. So it was pretty much, it needed to be swapped out for something better for this calendar support that I've added to actually make sense. And so to that end, I've integrated another jQuery plugin, which is this one. It's made by a guy named Keith Wood, and it's called the jQuery Calendars Date Picker, and it's basically a clone of the jQuery UI Date Picker, but with much, much more robust. Like, it has support for a bunch of non-Gregorian calendars and much more robust localization support and like mouse wheel support and all sorts of nice things. So I've replaced the jQuery UI date picker with that one. So now when you click on a date picker, it's using a different plugin. It looks sort of the same because this one also has a renderer that uses the theme roller, jQuery UI theme roller theme for its rendering. And so that's what I'm using. So this one is actually using the theme roller customization that already exists in Orchard for rendering various parts. So that's why it looks kind of similar to the old one. It's a little different. Like, it has a drop box to select the month and year, and has a today link and whatnot. But what's really interesting with this one is that if I go back to the settings and change out like the culture to Iran. Sorry. A new page again. What?
I'm smiling at Sultan's comment, not your demonstration. Control F5, man.
I just saw it. Maybe that would be better. What the hell? Demo devil at work. Let's change the calendar also. Saved, yeah, new page. Well, now it works. Yeah, so now you can see it displays using the Persian calendar, which this UI, this jQuery plugin actually supports, and with Farsi localizations of the names of the days and the months and so forth.
What is weird is that it's right to left.
Yeah, it's a right to left language.
But the numbers, 13 is not 3-1, it's 1-3.
Yeah.
I'm stupid or what?
Yeah, they don't actually they write out the numbers like this, like Western numbers. And I think you will see that if you go like to the front end and refresh this one too. You'll see that it actually shows.
So is that wrong?
2. No, it's totally correct. It's the way they write it actually. Okay. So numbers, they write the same way that we do. It's just the names of the days and months.
Maybe we actually write the numbers as they do, and we are wrong.
That's more probable actually.
Because yeah,
they've been around for much longer, I guess. Yeah. So
can you show time too? Because
yes, I can. So I changed
using a new one.
This plugin, and we're using a new one for the time, because this one also written by this guy. He has a time entry plugin, and aside from having much better localization support, this one, I think most people will be pleased, because the way that it was before, like selecting a time with 2 sliders, come on, what's that about? I haven't met anyone who likes that approach. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Who wants to pull sliders just to enter a time? So this one is just an entry plugin. It has some nice things like full localization support, and you can navigate using the arrow keys, and it will like wrap around the numbers, navigate to the right and left, and also the AM/PM designator. If you're wondering what this little thing to the right here is, it's like the clicky equivalent of using the keyboard. Like pressing this center part is now, and this is like up and left and right to navigate. Less than use, like has some usability concerns, but it came with it out of box, so I just let it.
When I saw it on the website, I thought it was a bug actually.
Oh.
This thing, like they don't show the calendar, and I want to click on that and nothing appears, and so I thought it was a bug. That's weird. So okay. now you tell it, it makes sense, but
yeah, we may need to make it clearer than what it's for,
or remove it.
Yeah, you could do that. And both this one and the time entry also have mouse wheel support, so like you can stand here and scroll using the mouse wheel if you want.
Good.
Yeah, so that's that. What else? Culture data. Oh yeah. So the way that this client-side localization works is there's an integration layer, if you will, that takes all of the localized strings from server side and it configures them on this client plugin so that it displays correctly. And before this change set, there was an implementation of this. Let's see, the interface is IDateManager provider. And the implementation before was just called dateTimeFormat provider, but I renamed that one to localization dateTimeFormat provider. And it actually, like, it delivers things like all of the names of the months and the short names and the day names and so forth. And it puts it all through the Orchard localization process. So whenever you want to display this in another culture, you need to make sure that you have a translated language pack in place to show it. And all that is actually completely unnecessary because Microsoft have been kind enough to do all of this translation for us.
This was not unnecessary. This was on purpose for a specific reason.
Oh, do tell.
So, and it was a pain to do that. So if it was really necessary and a pain, why do that?
Yeah.
The reason was to let users change how dates are rendered without having to create some code.
Okay.
Just update or override the file, and also you could just download a PO file with local.
But why would you ever want to change the dates into something else than?
For instance, maybe because the pickers that we were using expected a specific format and not the .NET format.
But well, then it could be easily converted. Rather than forcing people.
But you need a way.
Okay, I have the real reason, which is that .NET has many cultures, but it doesn't have Klingon or Elfic or So if you want to make a website in those cultures.
So, like for instance, as Bertrand said, you will add a custom culture in your select culture format. How do you define those?
If you do that, then you would have to implement the iCultureInfo interface, right? Or inherit from the cultureInfo class. And if you do that, your implementation can provide these strings as part of the
your implementation with the solution, the previous solution, you could download the PO file with that. The PO file for the stuff that you added.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So you wouldn't have to write it as part of your culture. That's true. Yeah. So the good news is this is still available. You can swap it out for this if you want. But what I did was write another implementation of this, which is the culture dateTimeFormat provider. And now in this pull request, at least, it's used by default. So it just takes whatever the .NET framework has provided for us for the currently selected culture and returns that. And that's what you see now, like populating this control here, is the .NET framework translations. All right. So what else? What else? Oh yeah, just one more detail I thought I'd call out. So looking at the, let's see, go to Orchard jQuery. These are a couple of shape templates, time entry localization and calendars picker localization. Those are the templates that provide that integration layer that configures the client picker plugins with the correct localization info. And if you look at those, then there's some string replacement going on to convert like a .NET date formatting pattern into a pattern that the plugin understands. And to do that, you have to replace a bunch of strings with a bunch of different strings. And before, this was done pretty naively with like just a chain of replace calls, like string.replace. And that's broken because like you will end up replacing your own replaces, so to speak. Like you can't first replace this with this and then replace the same string with something else and expect that to work.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
This pattern is in my blood, I know this thing. It should not.
Yeah, you need the correct order of replacements, and then you're okay, but it's really a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and so in some cases you can't do it in the correct order even. For example, when you want to switch out two strings, like replace one with the other and like A with B and B with A, then there's no correct order to do it. So the old code was actually broken.
So in which order are you doing them? Because I see, for instance, 4 Ys into 4 Ys, and then 3 Ys into 4 Ys.
Yeah, what I'm doing now is I'm not using the string replace chain of things at all. So I wrote something for this purpose, and that's what I wanted to like show you guys so that you're aware that it's there. So I wrote like a string extension method called replace all. And what it does, it creates a regex pattern with all of the replacements in one go, and it makes the replacement using regex like in one sweep. So you don't get that problem of like overwriting your own replacements.
So last year we removed every regex for a reason, and now we are adding them back somehow.
I wasn't aware that.
For instance, you see you are in a string extension. If you go up to remove tags, for instance, there is a method called remove tags. You will see there is no regex, and it used to be regex, and for performance reasons, because there were bottlenecks in lots of places.
I wasn't aware, but if you can write a better performing implementation of this, I guess. Yeah. But I think it's quite tricky to do.
Yep.
Like algorithmically.
So it's also that's maybe also a reason why. No, because we were doing a translation also in the previous version. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, like this extension method is there now, and for cases like this, it's pretty useful. So I just wanted to call it out so you guys are aware that it's there, and you can use it if you want.
A question I saw quickly your PR. You changed the date time UTC parameter in a date time relative shape. So is it a breaking change? You added an uppercase to the parameter, and I know why, to be consistent with all the other shapes. But when I did work on this part last time, I kept it this way because it will be a breaking change, unless you tell me it's not a breaking change and the binder for parameters is case insensitive.
It is not case insensitive. So, that's actually the reason why I had to change them out.
So you're breaking every theme which is using datetime relative.
I suppose so, yeah.
So, or if you want to do that, add the two parameters, the lowercase and the uppercase, and check for the value for the uppercase. If it's there, use it. If it's not, look at the lowercase.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Should do that. I didn't. I don't think I intended to change the case. Like at some point, I noticed that it differed from place to place. So I just.
No. It was really all the time using the lowercase for historical reasons, and because we didn't want to break anyone. But if you want to do the change now, just be compatible with the previous one, because otherwise you will break all the themes which are using it.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so I'm writing that down. Fixed case. Datetime shapes. Okay, any other questions?
Is there any upgrade step that we need to take? Or
I
does
don't
it just work?
It should just work, because the only database-related change I made, which is actually doesn't go in the database at all, I guess, or it does, but it's this new drop-down of selected site calendar.
Is it using a record or?
No, it's using the info set, the settings info set.
Good. And so we just need a warning to let users know that if they were using PO files for localization, it has changed now. Or they need to. I don't know if there are any of them, but just a warning.
Yeah. Should we revert that change though, for the reasons that you and Bertrand mentioned, that to support Klingon and stuff like that? Or should we let people switch out the implementation to the localization one if they want to do that?
Based on
maybe introduce a Klingon feature that you can enable for the default current implementation.
Just a checkbox.
Well, if you tie both classes to an order feature, and using the one you wrote, Daniel, as the default, because I think that covers the majority of all cases. That should be the default. And if people do want to use PO files because they want to customize, then they can enable another feature. But then of course you need to disable the other one, and you need to be aware of that, I guess.
Yeah. But I think it makes sense to use the culture info one by default, because it gives a lot of people these localizations without them having to install a PO file even.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't do that. This file, localization date time format provider, which is the old way, it is still around, but I wasn't sure how to provide two implementations of the same interface and have one be the default. So what I did as a workaround was just to mark this one with a build action of none. So it doesn't exist.
No.
But
what you could do is tie it to a feature and then have this class suppress your new class. So if you enable the Klingon feature, or whatever you want to call it, then this would override your implementation.
Okay, that's a good way, I guess.
Yeah, I prefer this way. Do that. Don't put none, because first we'll forget about it, and first it won't compile, because it will say, hey, you have a non-CS file compile tag, so it won't compile. It won't pass the checks we have in the build.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this was not meant to be permanent, just a temporary workaround until I figured out how to do it.
Do Sipke suggestion, and that's fine.
Feature? Okay.
Don't call it Klingon. Okay, it was an example.
What do you suggest we call the feature? Datetime localization or datetime translation, or think about it.
Yeah. Template. I don't know. Anything.
Yeah. Anything.
But that's very good. Again, after the Azure thing. And I hope we can see you on next week, actually. I know what it is. We'll see.
Yes, let's hope so. Okay, so I guess I'll hand it over back to you.
Thank you. So I will pull it and see if I can upgrade the website.
Super.
Then on my list of topics, REST API and hosting. Because someone asked a question and Bertrand said, let's talk about it. Yeah, so someone on Bertrand's blog asked where the REST API stuff I did a while ago was, and it's not written publicly, or it's on Bertrand's blog now. I have a fork on Codeplex under my name. I just have 4 or 5 forks, and one is called backup. Okay, all the stuff I do locally, and I want a backup. And on this fork called backup, there's a branch named feature REST. This is where my code is. And the question that Bertrand raised is, branch contains two things. The REST APIs, so you can use your orchard as an API provider, we'll say, and just the backend. And another thing which is, but I'm not sure you were talking about that actually, another thing which is a way to prevent your orchard instance to be accessed from the front end. So it's just switching off all the front end features. Okay, so when you enable this module, this feature, you will just be able to use APIs and to log in into the dashboard to enter content. Okay, there's no more front end and no more theming and whatever. And it also contains a feature to let you create new tenants with this API only filter. So this way I demoed it last time. So this way, when you enable this main module, this main hosting module, you will be able to create as many tenants as you want for just APIs. Okay. So I don't think this stuff should be in the core by default, because this is really hosting specific. This could be an orchard distribution actually. Like, okay, I installed this, which will let just me create API websites. I don't know how to call it, this API website. So Bertrand, now you know what it is. Do you still think it should be in core? Or do you still think there is no reason why it should not be in core?
I think it should be in core.
Yeah, I kind of agree as well.
The fact that you can just enable this module and make your orchard website API only?
Yes. And when we say core, it's a module with the core distribution.
I understand, but it looks weird to me. Because that's...
Well, hold on.
It's
The idea is that you would be able to turn this feature on, and expose the content via a REST API.
There are two features. There is the REST API feature, which will create new API endpoints.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, and this, I agree, it should be as a core module.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
And another module is block everything which is not an API. So if you try to access the homepage or any route or any blog or whatever from the front end, it will just return a 404. Okay, it's intercepting every calls, and if it's not an API call, it will return a 404. So it's hiding your website and just showing the APIs. And also it contains a way for you. Well, actually, it won't return a 404. It will return you to the main host saying, "Oh, you access the website and on an API. Do you want to create a new API store, like a new tenant for APIs?" And that's it. It's kind of like a multi-tenancy module where it can create tenants, but dedicated to this API using a specific recipe. So that's.
I think the alternative would be to have another distribution that is specialized for that. But do you want to maintain another distribution?
No, I thought it could be actually a module on the gallery, because that's specific.
Okay, I don't feel super strongly about it, but.
Because Zoltan will use it, and
yeah,
a few others. But it's really...
It's definitely not for everyone. Yeah.
I might actually have a need for that.
Yeah, I understand what you say, but...
It's definitely useful, but I think Sébastien is making the case that it's definitely not for everyone, and that's a good point. We've shied away from putting in core stuff that we don't think a majority of users are going to use. So, according to that rule,
this is a different orchard. This is a different orchard. That's what I mean. And like, let's say we do a vertical hotel management orchard. That should not be in core. That should be a different distribution, like this one. The verticality here is just APIs and nothing else.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But I agree. I could definitely use it to create a website.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you use galleries for, right? Apps, galleries.
Mm-hmm. The issue with the gallery is that so it will just be a module. And maybe, yeah, so this is a module, and it will be better actually as a distribution. Like with the module already installed and set up in the default recipe, that would be even better.
Yeah, because when you're looking at it, you're thinking, well, I've got an Orchard installation. Do I want to expose themes, or do I want to expose APIs, or do I want to expose both?
You know, it can be a recipe when you set up your first tenant.
Yeah, exactly. Why isn't it a setup recipe?
And
Yeah.
Why doesn't it replace core? Or
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not replace, but provide it as
Lock everything. Because why is it not enough to just lock down the whole front end? So you have to log in.
So there are two kind of services here. One is locking in the front end, as you said, and the other one is enabling multi-tenancy by default and let you create new Orchard API only websites dynamically if you have the right to. You know, it's also an administration UI from the front end. But now it should not be, well.
It should be per tenant, surely. So you should be able to say one tenant is API only, another tenant is content.
But for that, it's using a recipe. It's just saying, create a new website using the recipe which says enable API and enable the. So that's all about recipes. That's it.
So it is, yeah. It's all about recipes.
But any vertical distribution of Orchard is just actually a recipe.
Yep.
Again, if you want to have a vertical solution for running your custom hotel, and you just run the hotel recipe, and that's it.
We don't distribute recipes on the gallery at the moment.
Nope, we don't. So I will still not do it right now. Maybe when I don't know. The REST API will be there, definitely. And we can make I can share also the module on the gallery. Because also it's a very specific need. Yeah. Maybe you want to...
Module, in all seriousness. Is it not just a feature of the multi-tenancy module?
Exact. You are not wrong, actually, because we could have a feature in the multi-tenancy or change the multi-tenancy to say that to provide on the default tenant to provide an interface to create new tenants from the front end based on dedicated recipes, optional or not.
Then it doesn't need to be a separate module.
Then it doesn't need to be. Yeah, that's a good argument.
And then
I knew we were inviting you at all these meetings for something one day.
Oh, thank you very much.
That's a good suggestion. Yep. And then it will just be a matter of providing with your multi-tenancy module the recipes that you want to show on the front end as a multi-tenant management. And one of them will be REST API only, which will enable the REST API module and the no front end module.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So next step. So first let's do the REST API, and then later we can think about this extending the multi-tenancy to be a hosting website. Yes. Okay, good discussion. Other topic. Bertrand hates Microsoft. That's a topic. I have some...
What did Scott Hunter? So Scott Hunter alluded that Microsoft are doing some internal stuff. So what's that?
I know. I can't tell you. You will know when it's released.
When?
Well, I don't know. It's up to me and providers and management and everything.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to say what it was, he would have.
And I think that if you were clever, you could guess.
Yeah.
I don't mean you are not clever. It's when you know, you will understand the hints.
Everything will make sense.
Sorry?
And everything will make sense.
Yep, everything will make sense. But
is this something to do with SharePoint?
I don't say anything because saying.
Oh, it is.
No. And when I say I won't say anything, I mean it could be rated SharePoint or not at all. So, but we'll see.
No, I got a reaction from Bertrand, so that's what I'm going with.
SharePoint stuff? Oh, you'll be surprised.
I think I know what it is, but I may be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to show you some websites actually.
Can I make a demo?
Sure. Go. What one?
Okay. And because Link is really slowing down everything on my machine still, actually it seems to be slowing down my browser, not even my internet, my IIS server, but my browser. So I prepared all the screens in advance, so demo won't be affected by that. Can you see my screen, Benedict?
Not yet. It's not even loading, actually.
Okay, I'm going to assume that he's seeing it. Okay, so when you display a list of items, such as the one you see on the screen right now, so it's a list of products, usually you use some sort order that is based on some data that you have. Often it's the date, and here in that case it's the date, and it doesn't work very well for a list of products. When you have a list of products on your homepage, you want to define exactly what products are going to appear first in the list. So this is a projection showing all my products, and I'm not satisfied with the order in which the products appear. Date just doesn't do it. So what I did is that this is the projection, by the way. So it's displaying all the products and bundles that I have in my database. There is some eager fetch going on here, and I have a sort criterion, which is creation date descending. So what I did is that I added a new concept of a custom sort order. I added a tab for it, but it will end up being just a sort order in the end. And there is an admin screen for those sort orders. And if you edit one of those, what you see is a list where you can drag and drop your items to reorder them. And here I made a selection of the top products that I want on my homepage, but they are not the only products that will appear. It's just that for those that have a sort order that is defined, I'm going to use that. Otherwise, it's going to revert to the other. It's going to fall back to the second sort order, which is date. So I don't have to order all of my products because I have hundreds, and that would be very tedious. But I can showcase the products that I want. And to select which ones I want, so for example, if I want to add a Raspberry Pi here, I could drag and drop it, or I can use the little plus button that's on the corner. And if I want to remove one, I can also do this here. And yeah, it's just drag and drop ordering. So you define your sort order completely manually. And once you're done, you can save that, and you can add it as a sort criterion on your query. And the result is exactly what you would expect, which is that they appear in the order that you define, and the ones that don't have an order defined appear after that. So that's it. Short demo, but I think it's a very useful feature for e-commerce websites. And this is why I had to implement the stuff in HQL, you know, the left outer joins and additional conditions on the joins. So it required core changes, which I wasn't very happy about, but you know, hopefully the contribution can also help other people. In particular, Sébastien, you mentioned that we should apply that so that the default joins in projections become left outer joins, so that, for example, when you add a condition on a field or a sort order on a field, it will work even on items that don't have that field, which is a problem today. Sometimes you add something like a sort order, and the results of your query just disappear. So that may be a good improvement to make that comes out of making this feature. So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, but also putting a sort filter on the field is also making the filter which can be interesting. Like, okay, just filter with this field. That's so maybe we need two sort orders for the fields. One which is doing a left or an inner join. I've pasted the websites of the week. The chat room, and I'm sharing my screen to show the websites. We should definitely do a recipe for hosting auto dealers, and I know a customer, so we'll assume that when they can see the stuff. So this is Galping Volkswagen, the same website. We have 2 car dealers of the week this week.
It's the same fab icon.
Yeah, the same company. Jalazel. Health e-deals.
Car dealer web pages, anyway. Is it like one company doing all of them?
Yes. You see this icon, Jalazel? This is a company doing all of them. And every week there are 2 or 3 new websites like this. They are all the same websites, the same recipe, but they connect maybe to the same databases, and the dealer can customize. You see new vehicles, custom offers and deals and everything. And that's awesome. That's why Orchard is done. You can reuse, you see the same vertical solution. They made their own modules to do search on vehicles and everything. That's good. What they should just use multi-tenancy too. They could host all of them on a single box without any issue.
Yeah, like WordPress.com for car dealers. Basically.
Exact. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I was changing some emails with a guy who showed me a website about local TVs in France, and I said, do a recipe, create a multi-tenancy website, and sell the website to all the local TVs in France, and done. Because they all have the same needs, news, feeds. Oh, he made a module for Windows Azure media services too. So interesting.
No comment on that.
And healthedis.com and futurederm.com product.
Sebastian, what was that project you mentioned earlier with the French guy and the TVs?
No, guy sent an email with a website he made for local television, and I told him, because there was some custom modules for local televisions and media management and everything. So I said, make a multi-tenancy solution and go to see all the French TVs in France and sell them the solution.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean. And this one, methco.com. Nice. Interesting. Different. Is it Orchard? No, I doubt. Yes, it is. Good. Question, comments? I think we'll end the meeting on that, unless there are some questions. Someone is typing. It's fun because the mic is on, so I can hear someone typing, or maybe it's not in the link window. Okay, no question. So Daniel, you push to make a demo next week, because if we want to ship it in core, we need a demo before. And for those who don't know what it is, you don't have to know until we have a demo, and we know that we can ship it in core.
Okay.
Even Bertrand doesn't know, which is to say. Okay. And that's it. So we want to ship before the end of the month, okay? 1.8 and 1.7.3.
Sebastian, do you want me to make a new pull request for those changes that we discussed, or can I do them after you pull it in?
Can't you update the current pull request?
I don't know.
Can
I?
Just change your fork, and yeah, I think so. People are doing that.
Okay, then I'll do that.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Thanks, bye.